Hello.
Welcome to Late Night Book Chat. It is so very late here right now.
It is so late. Yes.
So late. It's so very late. This is actually a pre-recording we did with Kay a couple weeks ago. You'll be seeing this today, which is just July 1st.
July 1st. Happy July, everybody.
Yeah. So, so this is pre-recorded. However, you're probably catching this on the premiere. Maybe you're not. But if you are, treat it like it's live.
Yeah. If you chat in the live chat.
Yep.
And
yeah, chat with each other.
Yeah.
We'd say ask questions. We'll say till the end, but that's just not going to happen. So,
right. So instead, you can leave questions in the comments.
Absolutely.
And then I'm sure Kay will see them. And
yes. If she doesn't, we'll send them to her. Yeah. I'm Andrew D Meredith. I'm a fantasy author. This is my wife,
Patricia Meredith, and I am a mystery author. And we are joined tonight by a very special guest, Kay of Kay's Hidden Shelf.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for coming.
I love that intro. Made me want to dance.
Yeah, exactly. We have a lot of fun with it. So we were saying we need to show like behind the scenes us.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
some B-roll going.
As a means of introduction, I think you just had a booktube anniversary.
Yes.
In January.
In January. Okay.
I did. Yeah. 2 years.
2 years. Awesome.
So that means it's been 2.5 years.
There. Yeah.
Alive.
Yeah.
How would you say that? 2.5 year anniversary. There you go.
Yeah, very happy on birthday.
Yes.
Thank you.
That would be 25 years in dog years. Yeah.
Sure.
There you go.
Too late to do math.
I love how fast you did that because I would have had to Google that.
Yeah. Get out my calculator. This is why when we're homeschooling, when we do math, it's all online. I don't teach that.
Yeah, that's right. That's why we're writers.
That's right. So anyway, Kay, introduce yourself to those who don't know the wonderfulness that is you.
Thank you. Yeah. So my name is Kayla, or Kay, and I started my channel about 2.5 years ago. I'm mainly a book reviewer and reader of all sorts. But yeah, I started my YouTube channel as a means of doing my reviewing for books, sharing my experience with reading, and it grew into something I wasn't anticipating, which was opportunities like discussing authors' books and asking them questions, being able to have those conversations and collaborating with other creatives to talk about their experiences and all kinds of topics in the bookish world. So yeah, I basically yabber a lot about books and just share all the bookish things.
And since you won't, I know you won't say it because you're Canadian, but I will say it. That you are a very well-respected member of the indie community.
Yes.
And the booktube community.
Yes.
So I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard anybody ever speak ill of.
Okay.
And if they did, we would hear about it from so many people.
Thank you. I think I mean, I hope it comes down to my attitude, which is stay positive. There are not always going to be things that work for me in books, but I always try and flip it on its head and say, well, it didn't work for me, but it could work for these type of readers. Because everyone has different reading tastes. But yeah, I generally try and treat others as I would want to be treated.
Always a good one.
Wise.
Yeah.
Very wise.
Almost golden, if you will.
Yeah.
So we're going to start off by asking you 5 random questions.
Yes, we always start with 5
out of our stoneware jar.
Ooh.
Yes. So let's see what wonderful things we get here. All right. What's your favorite book that you had to read because of school?
Ooh. That would be The Giver by Lois Lowry.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was actually the one that when I was a kid, made me realize that reading could be like movies. It could be entertaining. It could make you think. Okay. That was the book that kind of started it all.
Yeah. It's amazing how many people that book really sticks out. Did you read it in
I've
school?
never read it. No.
You've never read it?
But it's post-apocalyptic, right? It takes place in a near future.
It's one of those you really can't say much until you read it.
Yeah.
Well, like in my head, the art from the Man with the Beard, right, is the same to me as the art for the K, which I've also never read.
No, so it's not like the K.
I know, but they
The
both
K
have an
is
old man on
wonderful.
them, and so in my head, they both sit in like the same zone of, I don't know which one that is.
Right. No, but the K is
Right.
stuck on a desert island.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Very different. Yes. Okay.
Think
Well, since we
think
homeschool, when we get to the Giver, you will
Yeah,
read it with
there
the
you go.
kids.
Nope.
So-
yes, there you go. But yeah, it was the book that made me realize stories could be much more than just boring old books that you have to study in school.
Yes.
And that's coming from the perspective of my parents tried to push books on me from the time I was very little, and I always struggled with them. But then again, I also struggled with reading and writing and those kind of skills growing up. I don't know if anyone remembers Hooked on Phonics. I was one of those kids.
Yes. Yes.
So I think The Giver was definitely the one that helped me realize
Nice.
stories could be much more.
And
So,
was that in high school?
That would have been for our system, it would have been like grade 7 or 8.
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
middle school,
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
before high school. Yeah.
Yeah, I think not junior high maybe. So or middle school, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, okay. So you didn't grow up liking books. So it took that one book for you, which is so important for people to hear. Right. When you're a young kid and you're having a hard time getting into reading, or you're a parent and you're like, why don't my kids like books? It really just, it takes that one book and then it just, yeah.
I remember always admiring books and admiring people who could read them and get that joy out of it, but I could never find that book that would do that for me.
Mhm.
And this is coming from the perspective of my parents tried to read me Harry Potter when it first came out.
Okay.
And every night my mom would sit me down and read a chapter aloud, and I would just groan over it because the way the experience was, it wasn't what I had envisioned in my mind.
Yeah.
And so The Giver was the one that really gave me that experience and made me realize, no, you can have that. You just have to find the right book.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Are we encouraging you to read this book?
Yeah.
Read it. We'll have a chat about it, Andrew.
Yes.
Yeah. I have to do White Fang too, so I'll put that in with.
Yeah.
I'll read.
Oh, we could do a whole
couple.
discussion
Yeah.
on like children's books that like
Yes.
we miss out on
Uh-huh.
as kids, that you know,
Yep.
reading it as an adult, if it still is the same, and even like rereading, right?
Yeah.
Have you read The Giver recently?
Not recently. I would
Yeah.
like to reread it, and I actually didn't realize it was a series at the time. There is continuations to it.
That's true.
So I never finished the series because back then
Yeah.
there was no like readily accessible means of finding out if a book was a standalone or a part of a series.
Yeah.
You just kind of had to find out.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've only ever read the first one. So
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Would you rather like a book that everyone hates, or hate a book that everyone loves?
I've done this already. I
Yeah.
hate a book that everyone loves. I've done that so many times already. One would be The Poppy War.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I did not, by R.F. Kuang. That was not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I got
I
through the
tried.
first half, and then I just never finished it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I pushed myself to finish it and I regretted it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So I'm okay with that.
Is there a book that you like that everybody hates?
I don't know. I think I just tune those people out.
Smart.
That's a good way to do it.
If they do, someone will tell me in the comments.
That's right.
Right, exactly. All right. Well, I know the answer to this one, but do you have matching editions of a series?
So like the same set, like made by
Like
the same.
set. So, and I'm thinking, what about, do you have to have matching editions of a series? So if we're collecting a series,
Oh, okay, I see what you mean.
right? Do they
have to
If
be
you,
like
if
all
you want to
hardcover?
expound on like what it takes for a book to get to a point where it is I'm going to now collect this. Like, is there a conveyor belt from I bought it in mass market to see if I'd like it to I own all the hardbacks?
from Broken Binding?
So
Next edition.
I am the type of person where I will actually wait and see if I like it. Like I might borrow it from a library. I might get a used copy first to see how much I like it, and if I'm willing to invest in like the hardcovers or the special editions, things like that, even ebook, right?
Yeah.
Things that hold me off from buying sets while the series is not yet completed are things like the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu, where the first 3 books were all same design, and then the last book, it was the last book that got fudged. And I felt so bad for everyone that had been holding out buying those books, and I was like, "No, I'm not ready to invest in those yet." So, if a series is incomplete, I will hold off on getting the physical copies. And the caveat to that is, indie authors I often get physical copies from, but my preference is to have a very streamlined series that looks similar in design. It will grate on me a little bit if I have a series, and even if they're all printed like trade paperbacks, but they're different heights or different spine designs, that will grate on me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't do that. But yeah, I do have completed sets, but like the ones up here are the broken bindings, so they're all designed at the same time. They're all designed in a way that's supposed to look aesthetic and pretty on the shelves.
Right.
What's your favorite broken binding series you've got so far?
Definitely the Tide Child with the dragon by R.J. Barker. Yeah, I think they did a phenomenal job with that one. And I know they've got laser printed ones now, but the Tide Child trilogy definitely I think was the standout one.
Do you have any new broken binding ones that are coming out that you're extra excited about getting, or are afraid of what it's going to do to your bank account?
So, see, this is hard because I do have the subscription, but that means it's outside of my budget to delve into their other editions. So for things like Malazan, I was like, oh, that would be really nice. But that breaks the bank account. And I know there are readers out there who would enjoy that so much more, who've read the entire thing, who absolutely adore the series, who will want that. So I'm like, you know what? I don't need it. It would be nice. But I think the one edition that I would have liked a copy of, they no longer have it, is the Dandelion Dynasty, the original special edition that they did with all the pastel colors. I know they did the midnight one, but it just wasn't the same for me.
No. The pastel one was the one where it was greens and pinks, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That was really beautiful.
They do such a good job with those.
Yeah, they're doing Braccia's books right now.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so we know what you're going to be buying.
Yes. They'll break the bank.
I mean, I haven't even finished the second book yet,
but you're loving it.
I love it. All right. Outside of college, university.
Okay.
Have you ever skimmed a book?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah.
So I wasn't the stream that went to college or university.
Okay.
So I didn't have a whole lot of required reading. So most of my reading was for pleasure.
Yeah.
So if I didn't jive with a book, I kind of, put it down. Yeah. I'd say the only part of books I do skim would be bedroom scenes.
Sure.
I'm not that kind of reader. So it does come up in fantasy sometimes, and I'll just skip because I don't need to see that.
But you haven't had any books that you've skimmed large portions so you could say you read it?
No. No, I don't see the point of that. I just put the book down.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
Just be done.
So do you like violence then? Like, can you read through all of that, battle scenes and stuff like that?
She likes R.J. Parker.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah. I think it depends on how the author does it, but for the large part, I read a lot of military fantasy and a lot of battle scenes like Viking and stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's when I've tried military fantasy, that one, or sorry, not military, like what was it? Like modern day military.
Gotcha.
Right, with soldiers and stuff like that. And those authors get very gory.
Gotcha.
And that's where I have a harder time with it.
Yeah.
Very visual. Doesn't need to be that visual.
Exactly. Yeah. One more?
All right, one more. If you could take a class on anything taught by any fictional character, what and who would it be?
Oh, that's hard.
She's gonna say Poppy War. No.
By any fictional character, does it have to be books?
No.
No, don't say that.
Fictional character teaches you something. Who is it? What do they teach you?
I would love to learn airbending from Avatar: The Last Airbender. That would be so cool. Just glide around on a glider. Yeah, exactly. Get the marbles out. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So are you an airbender?
Sure.
like of the four.
Yeah.
What defines that? So I've never taken like quizzes or anything.
So an airbender is like reactive.
I don't know. We'll have to look it up sometime and like and see.
Hit you up on Discord.
Yes.
We'll have to find a bender test.
We're gonna have to take this test now. Find out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, such a good show.
Yeah.
It is.
She's just rewatched it.
Yeah. And there's graphic novels, so it's still a book. It's a book.
Right. That's right.
It is. There you go. That counts.
There you go. So awesome. Cool. All right. So you like Airbender. Are there other anime and shows like that you enjoy?
Yeah, I mean, I used to watch it a lot more. Probably in my 20s, I watched it, and then obviously having kids, that you kind of have to narrow down your hobbies and what you do. Yeah, for now.
Yeah.
So I don't watch as much TV or movies. I'm years behind on all of that. But I used to watch quite a bit of anime, including things like Soul Eater, Black Butler. Yasha was the one that actually got me into all of it because that just turned up on, late night Cartoon Network back in the day. But there was quite a few that I used to watch, and not so much now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I watched a lot of those shows, and I'm trying to remember. There is one like Steven Universe, even. I watched that after my son was born because it was quiet enough that we could like put it on and not disturb newborn.
Yeah.
So
you're of more of the Steven Universe and Adventure Time generation.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say that was my generation. I actually watched them as adults.
Okay.
But like just the wacky sense of cartoon humor.
Yeah.
I love that.
So were you like a Homestar Runner fan?
No, I grew up with the Nickelodeon kids.
Okay. Yep.
So I was born in like 90, right? And so we had like TVO Kids and Nickelodeon. So we grew up with Cat Dog and DW and Arthur and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So Dexter's Laboratory, just the zany, kooky cartoon characters, but then you still get those moments of tenderness between these characters or the hardships that they suffer. So yeah.
Did you have Wishbone up there?
We had Wishbone.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
That's the like number one show that I'm like, why haven't they redone that one? And
don't redo it. Yeah. Don't redo it in
today. But sorry, bring it back. Yeah. Stream it somewhere so that I can stream it. Yeah.
Yes.
Or find the books. I've only got I think 2 or 3 of the books that I found at a thrift store somewhere.
Oh,
and I'd
nice.
love to find more of them because they're great. They go back and forth between the actual stories. So like Robin Hood, right, and then like the story that Wishbone's telling with the kids and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it was such a great introduction to
literature. Yeah.
It was,
yes.
Both book and play.
Mm-hmm. I think Wishbone and Reading Rainbow, I feel like define like why there's so many booktubers from our generation.
Potentially.
But don't take my word for it.
Don't take my word for it. I know. Yeah. They were just talking about that, about the anniversary with LeVar Burton. So anyway.
What anniversary? How old is it?
Oh gosh, it would be like 30th. Yeah.
30? No way. It was like 86, 85. It'd be like 40th.
Would it be the 40th?
Yeah, close them on the 4th. It's got to be.
Oh my gosh.
It's got to be.
Don't be dating us.
Yeah. That's wrong.
I don't feel that old.
No, 90s is only like a couple years ago.
Yeah, that's right. It was like a decade ago. We're good.
That's right. So you are a very well-rounded individual.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be.
Done a lot over your life and still have a lot of hobbies.
Yes.
Like baking.
Yes. Bread. Oh.
What is What's the thing you really want to attempt right now with your baking?
To just get sourdough right the first time. That would be so nice. I think I've failed. I've messaged you about
Yep.
this because it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
But
Mine
sourdough
hasn't
bread,
risen yet. I started it this morning.
Yeah.
like, what's wrong with
And I
it?
put yeast
Why
in it
can't it just
too.
do its job?
I always cheat with it.
So yeah, sourdough the first time because I think at this point I've attempted, and I've had 14 failed loaves and
Oh,
2 successes.
huh.
So I've tried everything. I've tried because you've helped me try and problem solve these loaves,
Yeah.
and I've tried hydration differences. I've tried proofing differences. I've tried all kinds of things, and I would love to be able to get sourdough bread right without having to hassle so much about it because it's already a long process as it is.
And you're at sea level too.
I guess so.
Yeah.
We are in a valley here. So we are in a valley.
Like
We do get
we're at 8,000 feet. We're at 6,000 feet.
okay. Yeah, we're
yeah.
lower than that, I think.
Because you're not far from you're on the lakes, not on the St. Lawrence,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah, we're above the Great Lakes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I'd love to get that right. That would be
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. I mean, I like when we do artisan bread, which is just the overnight.
Yeah.
That's just
I just don't use sourdough.
Yeah, you just don't use sourdough.
But I still do try to do 12 hours, even with sourdough or not.
Yeah.
If I want at least 12 hours of it sitting and just me not touching it, not have to do anything with it.
Yeah. It's any other bread recipe with the instant yeast, no problem.
Yeah.
I have no problems with them. They come out great every time. And as soon as I use sourdough starter, everything goes downhill.
Interesting.
I'm just like I did everything I was supposed to do. I think I've watched I don't know how many hours of instructional videos at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm this close to giving up.
Oh no.
I think
worst
after
case
16
scenario, you
loaves.
switch back to instant yeast and you still get to do bread.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. And there's bakeries down the road. Like if I want to feel fancy, I can go out and feel fancy, but
Yep.
Well, nothing beats homemade bread.
No.
I mean, it doesn't have to be sourdough though. Yeah. And then
No.
you made cinnamon rolls.
Yeah.
That was one of the first for Legends and Lattes, right?
Yes.
You did like a cinnamon roll. Yeah. So are you planning on doing more of those with the book?
I am. So the Literary Appetite series is something that is really tricky to time and to do because I have to take into consideration how much time it takes to actually do the recipe and then separately film it all myself.
Right.
As if a shot didn't work great, I have to see how I can salvage it and setting up the cameras and the lighting and trying to move all of that in the background while also doing the recipe in a way where my back isn't covering the camera.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more thought. So what would normally take, like, let's say it's a 2-hour recipe, that would bring it to closer to 5 hours because I have to, do extra shots and pose the finished product a certain way and do all of these things. And that's not even counting editing time.
Exactly.
So that plus the chaos of a toddler is near impossible.
Yes.
So I do plan to continue it, but I do need to pick my recipes carefully.
Yeah.
Because they do need to be smaller recipes. So the next one I would like to do is honey cake because that's pretty quick. It's pretty easy, very simple. So we'll see how that one goes when I can record that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So let's see. So baking and cooking, and somebody recently told me that you have done sword fighting.
Yes, yeah. Fun fact that I always forget about. I took a course at our local college where they were teaching sword fighting, and they taught 2 styles, and they were both in the same class, which made it a little tricky. But they taught the medieval broadsword, and then they taught the Japanese boken, which is actually the wrong term for it. I think it's boten, depending on what the actual term is, because it's the wooden katana practice sword.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, Sorry?
That was kendo?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they had 2 separate teachers, one for each style.
Okay.
And we did drills. We learned how to disarm opponents with knives. We learned how to do all those things. I'm pretty sure I lost a few brain cells getting smacked in the head with wooden swords at some point, but yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun to learn about the different fighting styles and what would be more accurately represented as opposed to choreography.
Right.
Yeah.
So we learned more realistic and
Right.
traditional forms of fighting styles as opposed to choreographed setups.
Yeah.
Wow.
A little more brutal that way.
Yeah, that would explain the goose eggs. But yeah.
Oh, that would be so great for authors.
Yeah.
It was
like,
oh,
like
you
colleges should
could have picked the
offer
brains.
classes. Yeah, they should offer classes and things like that, horseback riding things.
Yeah.
Like we need to know how to do.
That would
for our
be
books.
a great retreat to set up here
Ooh,
in
yeah.
Colorado, because I mean
Yeah.
I could get a hold of some world champion sword fighter
That's
here
true.
in town.
Yeah, we have a lot.
She goes
of
all
the
over
Run
the
Fair.
world.
Yeah.
And does sword fighting, but we could do that and horses and just have a you want
That
to
would
learn
be
how to
so much
do.
fun.
Yeah.
And we can find somebody who has black rifle, black powder rifles and
That's true.
shoot
Your guns are
pistols
everywhere.
and
Yeah.
stuff. And
We got everything.
yeah, that'd be great. It's a great idea.
And then you can teach beer making and
Yeah, absolutely.
bread making.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
What was really fun though was the main teacher that ran it basically lived and breathed this. So he ran on weekends, he ran a workshop where people could come in. He had a full setup in his garage where you could make your own set of armor.
Nice.
And he's like, you can come in and use it for free. You just have to pay for the materials that you use.
Wow.
And so like walking through, like I did a tour of this place to see what it was all about. And like people had mannequins with full sets of armor that were custom fitted to them that they were making themselves on these machines.
Awesome.
And it was all just in this guy's backyard. Can you imagine the treasure trove?
Oh my goodness.
So when are you gonna go make a suit of armor with him?
Yeah.
No, unfortunately he's passed now, but he was an older gentleman.
Yeah.
And the younger teacher has now taken the course on, but yeah, him and his wife, they made mead, they did all this stuff in the background, and yeah, they were just the embodiment of every fantasy and combat nerd out there.
Awesome. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the dream. So let's see. Sword fighting. What other hobbies do you love to pick up?
Crochet, knitting. I play violin, ukulele. I took a horticulturalist course as well for gardening.
Awesome.
Basically,
how long have you been playing violin?
Yeah.
11 years.
Okay.
Wow.
11 years. And I would say I'm in between, I'd say I'm intermediate, not quite amateur, but not quite like advanced.
Yeah.
It's a complicated instrument.
It is.
Yeah. Our daughter's getting one for her birthday today, actually.
Oh, nice.
Like
happy birthday to her.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So we'll see how long that takes.
Yeah. We found her a 3/4 and we have access to a full, which she'll probably immediately have to go up to for her size. But
yeah. So any recommendations for learning the violin?
The progress will be slow at first because there's no frets.
Yeah.
Right. If you compare it to a guitar has frets where you know exactly where to put your fingers, 3rd fret, 4th fret. Violin, it's all by ear.
Okay.
Everything's by ear in terms of intonation. So she will probably feel discouraged for a little while that her tone, everything sounds pretty scratchy.
Right.
But practice those scales. Do the hard work in the beginning. The more you practice, the more she does it, the faster she will get better at it. As soon as she has her intonation, it'll be a little bit better and a little bit easier in the learning curve.
Okay. Did you do piano first?
I did as a kid.
Okay. Yeah. She's done a little bit of piano for only like a year, but
that'll help her then.
Yeah. I'm hoping that'll help her hear
if she's familiar with the C major scale, for example, on the piano, then as long as does she have a teacher?
She will.
She will.
We have
Yes.
somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they'll curate it.
Yeah.
Likelihood is they'll teach her the Suzuki method, which is by ear.
Okay.
It's the most common one. But essentially, if she knows a C major scale, as soon as they go to get her to play it on the violin, she'll be able to pick up pretty quick if
Right.
something's out of tune.
Okay.
And it'll frustrate her.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it'll get her frustrated.
So okay, so being a violinist and a ukulele player,
Yeah.
so cool too. So are there any books that you've come across that have made you that like maybe include that in there or?
Oh, yeah. Bard City Blues by
Okay.
Nathaniel Webb. It's a cozy fantasy, and the main character is a bard with a mandolin, which mandolin, if you don't know, mandolin and violin are very similar. If you know violin, you can transfer over to a mandolin in terms of tuning.
Okay.
The difference is bowing compared to plucking like a guitar.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, I think that one was really well done. It helped that the author is also a musician.
Oh,
With
perfect.
years of guitar playing. So he easily captured what it is to be a musician, and just down to like how we hear the tones of the music and how it rings and what that makes people feel. Yeah.
Awesome. I'll definitely add that one. Yeah.
But we have a bunch of bard books on our TBRs right now.
What other ones?
I want to read Shauna Boyle's.
Yes. Spirit Kit the Bard.
That one.
Yeah.
The first chapter was hilarious.
Yes.
Have you read that one?
I haven't. It's on my list too.
Yeah.
It has Sherlock vibes.
Oh.
Like Sherlock Holmes the movie, that kind of that Guy Ritchie wry
Yeah.
humor. Guy has to talk himself out of every problem kind of bard. So
Ooh,
definitely a criminal bard.
Yes.
And then what was the other one? It's on, you just pointed it out on the
Something Renegades.
Oh yeah.
Song of the Renegades.
Okay. I'm thinking Spirit of Vengeance.
Here, and it's got a picture, a really beautiful picture of a lute with a sword and a gun across it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're thinking the same one, and I don't remember the title. I thought it was something like Spirit of Vengeance or something like that, but I could be completely wrong.
I forget.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a Revolutionary War era.
Yeah.
Bard story.
Yeah.
Now, I will say I am reading The First Binding by R.R. Verdi, and that also has a bard in it as well.
Okay.
That one is a little different because he's not so much a musician, but the way this character tells stories is very equivalent to it, playing off the emotions of the audience and knowing exactly when to hold and stay silent versus speaking or giving emphasis on a tone. It's described beautifully.
Nice.
Okay. That sounds really good.
Yeah. That one's a chunk though. It's like 900 pages.
Okay. Did you read Inkheart as a kid or as an adult?
I didn't actually. No,
Inkheart,
I know of it.
Yeah, it has that kind of musicality to it. It's all about
What about writing?
a man. Well, it's a man who can read books into being.
I've seen the movie.
Yes, yeah, the movie was.
Except the Brendan Fraser wasn't.
Except the Brendan Fraser is adorable as always.
Yes.
Yeah. Other than him.
That's why I watched it.
Exactly. But the book is phenomenal because it's a love letter to writing and to reading and and there's 3 books in that series. So
okay.
That was
poetic. There's at least I have 3 of them.
There might be a 4th one.
If there's a 4th one, then it's newer. Yeah. It's by a German author. So some of it is the translation. And so like the structure of her sentences is different. And so that adds a different, sound to it when you're reading it. It's one of those books you need to read aloud or listen to aloud.
Okay.
Right? Because
or immersion read it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's all about reading and yeah, it all goes together. But
speaking of which, what is your so you do immersion reading?
Yes.
I do.
For those that don't know what immersion reading is.
Yes.
Yeah. So immersion reading is essentially where you mix audio and the written format. So I'm often listening to an audiobook while I'm reading a physical copy or an ebook of some kind. For me, my attention span drifts very easily. And if I'm reading just the physical copy, I tend to read a paragraph and realize I have no idea what I just read. And I'll have to go back and reread the paragraph. Or I run into the instance of I read a sentence and I mix up a word or 2 words. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And then I focus too much on what I thought I read versus what's actually there. So audiobooks in addition to the writing, actually helps me with my experience, and I actually end up comprehending and retaining a lot more. So I remember the story a lot longer.
Do you do it with full noise canceling headphones or ear pods or?
Just one AirPod. And I'm so used to just popping in one headphone that noise canceling headphones on both ears is really disorienting for me, which
Yeah.
it shouldn't be because it should allow me to focus better. But I think not being able to hear if someone needs me in the other room, or the washer stopped working, or like stopped its load, like I need to go change over it, those kind of things. I'm just so used to having to be aware that a single headphone is usually all I can manage.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And do you have a particular place that you do this in?
Anywhere, really.
Anywhere? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's
I
not
like
like one particular chair or beanbag chair and has to be this blanket and
no, I'm not that I'm not that picky or specific.
you could be.
I mean, I could, but no, I've got reading chairs all throughout the house.
Right.
The one place that's hard for me to read is in bed
Okay.
Okay.
because I will instantly fall asleep.
Yeah. Then you
Yeah.
smack yourself in the face.
And usually I startle myself awake because when I'm reading in bed, I'm probably going to be reading a Kindle. Metal is less forgiving than a book. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
So
Yeah.
yeah. A
Yeah,
lot more
I
panic.
find I'll be like, my eyes I'll realize my eyes are closed, and I know the phone is an inch from my face at this point.
Yeah.
I open my eyes and I'm like, what was it? I swear I was just dreaming something, and I have no recollection of what it is, but it's like it's time
Yeah.
to put it down.
Yeah. Put it down, go to bed. But yeah, no, I'll read outside. I'll pick wherever spot I can. I'll read standing in the kitchen sometimes if I'm cooking.
Yeah.
And I've just got to keep stirring something. I'll just pop out a book while I'm
Yeah.
trying to get that done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it full sync with you as you go, or are you hand scrolling?
We don't yeah, so I'm hand scrolling. In Canada, we don't have the function for syncing.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like you're cooking, if you put your book aside because you need to be stirring, you just have to go find where you were.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's usually not that hard. It's like you can kind of gauge it pretty easily, but
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Do you find that helps, especially with fantasy books, with knowing the pronunciation of
Yes.
names of places and
Yeah, Dululu becomes
Yeah.
Mr. So and so. Yeah, the
Right.
pronunciations definitely help a lot. I think for me, I'm much more a visual person as well. So I think hearing the descriptions helps me to imagine it a lot better, as
Yeah.
opposed to if I were reading it off the page alone. Because when I do just read it off the page, I find I miss sections or I forget about scenes a lot more easily, as
Uh-huh.
opposed to if I plug in an audiobook, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that scene. Like I watched it in a movie.
Right. Yes.
So that's different for me as well.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I've definitely met people who are the opposite, who they can't
Yeah.
focus on an audiobook. They lose track of what's happening, and that's why they're like, oh no, I don't do audiobooks because I can't focus on it. But
I will say if the audiobook is too slow, I will tune out. So I
Yeah.
usually do have it at a higher reading speed depending on the narrator.
Mhm.
But if it's too slow, I'm like, no thanks. I gotta,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I find especially with British narrators, they're funnier if they're a little bit
Like
faster.
1 through 5. Yeah.
It's
Yes.
like the witty,
Repartee,
the
yes.
repartee.
Yeah.
Like when Jesus Wooster,
Yeah.
especially.
PG Woodhouse
PG
at 1
Woodhouse.
through 5 is hilarious.
Yes.
It's funny at 1
Okay.
as well, but it's funnier at 1 through 5. Same
Yes.
with Discworld.
Yes.
Discworld at
Oh,
1 through
yes.
5 is
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny though. I find I'm the same with trying to learn something educational. The faster something is, the more I'm forced to pay attention.
Oh,
Okay.
true.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it as well, maybe.
Yeah. So it's educational. So do you read nonfiction books too? Or
Mhm.
I mean, mostly fiction or yeah.
I read mostly fiction. Every now and again, I'll fit in nonfiction, and usually they're topics on like philosophy.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like Buddhism and Stoicism and things like that.
Yeah.
I've read some parenting books because God help us all on
Yes.
that front. But yeah, in terms of nonfiction stuff, it's more in the sense of how can I be a better person? How can I work through, whatever kind of issue I'm trying to work through, whether it's difficulties with parenting or trying to manage chronic pain and stuff like that. So that's kind of where the nonfiction ends for me, at least. I have read some books by Richard Dawkins, and Carl Sagan is probably one of my favorites in terms of science. But they're fewer and farther because my brain capacity, especially nowadays, is a little smaller due to sleep deprivation.
Yes. And focus on potty training and
Oh my
all
God,
of that time.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
why is potty training so hard? Why?
It's like sleep training. It's like, don't you come out like knowing how to sleep? Come on.
You were fine last week with the potty training. You did great. What happened this week?
Right. Oh my goodness. I know.
Yeah.
So do you ever read any like literature adjacent philosophy, like philosophy of Tolkien, or you read any of those, or is it mostly in-world philosophy books?
I'll be honest, I didn't realize that those were there. So, I mean, if they are there, send me recs.
Yeah, I'll
Send
send
me
you-
recommendations. Yeah.
You were
Because
thinking
I would
about reading.
love to read that.
Yeah. There's some great ones.
Oftentimes, a lot of the reason why I love reading in fiction is because we get a front row seat. We get put into the shoes of these characters, and I love when authors take those characters through. And it's probably going to sound terrible, but authors will get it. The torment of their circumstances because of the psychological analyzing you can do with these characters, the journey they've been on. You're right in the thick of things with them. And even down to the world, like, how did the world get that way? How did it evolve? Did something happen? Like, magic, is that involved? Who knows? I love asking those questions when I'm reading, and they're probably, someone's probably going to be watching this like, shouldn't you just be reading the book for the sake of having fun and reading the book? And yes, but I still have these questions.
Right. I think ultimately, I mean, that's why we're writing them, is because we're asking those same questions. And I feel like I get so much more philosophy out of literature, out of fiction than nonfiction. Yeah. Like because there's just that extra layer of taking a step back. Also, that's why I love fantasy, right? It pushes me and historical fiction, because it's just far enough away that I'm not thinking about the current world and the problems that we're going through. But then something very similar can be happening in the book, and I get more out of that than I do, nonfiction. So
in terms of nonfiction, I'm very much the type of person, and this kind of applies to, I guess, really anything, but I'm the type of person to take what works for me and leave the rest. Right. So if it's something I can apply in my life, it's something that can help me, if it's something that I enjoy, I'm gonna add that to my little basket. And if it's something that doesn't work for me, I don't have to. I can just leave that. I don't, for that reason, like I don't consider myself a Buddhist. I just use principles that have worked for me and have helped me over time. But I still find those topics fascinating, because you never know, that little piece of information that didn't work for me, well, it might work for someone else if I cross paths and they're like, oh, I'm having a hard time with this. Potty training books, I'm having a hard time with this. Well, hold on.
Yes.
I've been there, or that didn't work for me, but the book said this one.
Right. Exactly. Well, because just like with that, every kid is different, right? Every parent is different, every person is different. And so reading a book and seeing, and just the wide variety of worldviews and experiences, right? Everybody brings their own experiences to a book. It's
like buying a cookbook, right?
It's fascinating.
Sometimes we buy a cookbook for 2 recipes we know we really want.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful book, because Jamie Oliver makes beautiful books.
Yes.
But I don't need all of his recipes.
Yeah.
And I might admire them, but I'm not going to make them all.
This is why YouTube is great.
Yes.
In my opinion, because you can follow Jamie Oliver's channel and you can find those recipes on his YouTube channel. The risk you run is that video could be taken down.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So, all right. So who's your favorite cook?
Celebrity cook. Yeah.
Celebrity cook. Oh,
Oh, there's a list.
Well, do you
It's
watch
okay.
like Binging with Babish?
I do.
Or
I'm thinking Binging with Babish, but his channel has changed a little bit.
Yes.
And I will say I'm not a huge fan of Alvin. And I've followed Alvin when he was back with Tasty, I think it was.
Okay.
He worked with them for a long time and he made some fun videos, but I find his recipe skills are not as clean as Babish.
As Babish, yeah.
Yeah. There's been some where he's kind of cut corners or he hasn't explained something in the voiceover.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not a huge deal, but the end result, I'm like, where's Babish?
Yeah.
I miss Babish.
Do you follow Max Miller?
That's the other one I was going to ask.
I don't think so.
He does history of food.
History of food.
Yes.
Max Miller.
Oh, yes. Yes, I followed Joshua Wiseman as well.
Yes.
That's another one.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's mellowed out a lot recently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I felt early on he was a little too erratic and spazzy, but he's mellowed out. He just did I think it was him who did he ate every possible French fry from all like the top 30 restaurants, and then the best burgers, and then the best chicken sandwiches from each of them. And I spent a day, I watched all 3 of those while I was editing. And so now I have some fries I need to go try out, and burgers, because he was doing a really good grading job of here's what makes a good burger.
Okay.
Here's what makes a bad burger, and then here's where it scores on these 3 things. And
so
it was good.
This was Josh or Max?
It was Josh. Yeah, Josh.
Okay, Josh. Okay.
He's the redhead with the ponytail, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to have to look this up now.
Yeah, the fry one was probably the one that was best for me. I needed to know that. I needed to know what the best fry was. So
I agree with you. There are places I will not get French fries from. Same standard with poutine. Here in Canada, the poutine, no. There are several places I will not get poutine from because they get the gravy wrong.
Yeah.
So what makes a good poutine?
Yeah.
It does depend a little bit, but you do want your French fries to be fresh, crisp, not the frozen ones cooked, because I've seen places do frozen French fries. There is a difference.
And for fries, do you prefer battered fries or straight fries?
Oh, I'm straight fries.
Okay.
Yeah.
No batter. The cheese curds, fresh, because they are, they're not shredded cheese. They are cheese curds, right? Because if you put shredded cheese, it just melts right away.
Right.
From the heat of the gravy, and then it just becomes a cheesy soup, which is awkward. And in terms of the gravy, there are 2 kinds of gravies that you will usually find. And the first is poutine, specifically poutine gravy. It has a higher, a different spice level to it. It's hard to describe, but there's a lot more spice in the poutine gravy itself. So it doesn't necessarily have a strong beefy flavor or a strong chicken flavor or anything like that, but it does have a lot of spiciness in terms of I don't know if it's like basil or parsley. I'm not sure exactly which herbs they use, but there is flavoring to it. And then the other,
a white gravy or a brown gravy?
It is a brown gravy. The most common one is a brown gravy, and then there is the beef gravy, depending on which region you're looking at. But there are just some places like Milano's. Don't get poutine there. Don't get poutine at Milano's. Stick to your pizza for Milano's.
Yeah. So where is your favorite?
I mean, there's not a whole lot of options where I live, unfortunately. So from where I live, Harvey's actually does a pretty decent job. But if you're looking for a really good poutine, go to a chip wagon. That's what we call them. The little trucks, like food trucks on the side of the roads. We call them chip wagons because they sell chips, French fries. But yeah, those are probably your best bets.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well, if we ever visit.
Yes.
If you go to Toronto, apparently there's a really famous poutineery. Smokies, I think it is Smokies Poutineery, something like that. Apparently it's the best in Canada. I have yet to have tried it. So Toronto, one day I'm coming for you.
How far are you from Toronto?
About 4 hours, so not too bad.
Okay.
That's like a day
let's
trip.
take a drive to Toronto.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we're definitely coming for the food.
Oh yeah.
That's why you travel, right?
Yeah. What was that? What was that show on Amazon? It was all about cheese. It was
There
a
was
guy
a
from
show.
Toronto
Yeah,
who's
yeah.
Oh,
a
yeah.
cheesemonger, and
For the
he
love of
for
cheese.
the love of cheese, and
Yeah.
he
Okay.
went and did Switzerland, France,
Canada.
Well, he's from Canada, so he did Toronto
Yeah.
cheese, and then I
Yeah.
think went out to
There's one more.
Alberta cheese.
No.
Okay.
No. It was in Quebec.
Yeah.
Quebec. Yeah, I was gonna
So
say
he did
Quebec
two
is the
different
place
cheese
to go.
groups. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a good show. You'd like it.
Yeah.
I love cheese.
Yes.
Yeah.
We
I
love
don't
food.
blame you. I'm half French. We love our cheese.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We're Welsh, but we love cheese.
I love cheese. Yes.
I guess there's Red Dragon is the Welsh cheese.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Which, by the way, melts really well.
Oh yeah, you tried it.
Yeah. Melted it yesterday.
So, all right. So cheese poutine. Yeah. Say it again. How do you pronounce it?
Poutine.
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 Okay.
Poutine, okay.
All right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the proper way to say it, apparently.
Okay.
Why? Like what's its origin? Like, what does it mean? I'm assuming it's French, or is it not?
I assume it's French, French Canadian.
Oh, yeah.
French Canadian and Parisian French are different.
Okay.
There are differences in terms of the language and the culture, despite the fact that they kind of came from France.
Sure.
But I honestly don't know what it means.
Mm.
I'm not that bilingual. I can ask you for a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, but
That's what's important.
That's right.
yeah.
So, all right. So then, yeah, what's your beverage of choice when you're reading?
Tea, definitely tea.
Yeah.
All kinds of tea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Usually I'll have a black tea as opposed to a coffee. For
Okay.
example, most people will start their days with a coffee. I kind of start mine off with a black tea.
Yeah.
But then after that, it's really any kind of herbal tea, green tea, specifically jasmine. I like jasmine green tea. The honeybush mandarin tea, rooibos, lavender tea. Those are good too. Earl Grey. There's all kinds of good teas.
Speaking my language.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you want to get fancy, turn that Earl Grey tea into a latte, and that makes you a London fog.
There you go. Yes, London fog. That is my go-to. I learned that in college. We would go to this tea shop, and somebody asked me if I'd ever had London fog, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's my go-to now." But let's see. So tea, and so when you're reading books, are there particular foods that you come across in books?
Or do you keep food by yourself too? Is there one that you need to have?
Oh, I will snack.
Nearby.
I will snack.
Right.
I will keep like a paper towel close hand to like clean my hands from the snacks and dump it on the book because that's important. But any kind of like, yeah, no cheers. I do have limits. Usually though, it's things like tea cookies. I call them tea cookies, but they're like shortbread cookies with jam or, just kind of snackish food you'll find at any real Walmart.
Right.
Boxes of cookies and things like that. Like the dad's oatmeal cookies, just something simple and light as a snack.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling fancy, strawberries, because those are expensive.
Yes, exactly. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So have you ever been reading a book and been like, okay, I have to have this because it was mentioned in the book? Or
so that happened with Legends and Lattes, and that's how the entire series of Literary Appetites happened. Because after I finished that, not even finished. I think I got halfway through, and I was like, I need to make cinnamon rolls.
Yes.
I'm making them. So I put the book down, went to make them, and if you made cinnamon rolls, you know that that's not a short process. It's like a 4 or 5 hour investment.
Yes.
Minimum. And I went and made them, and then I sat down with my freshly baked cinnamon roll covered in cream cheese icing and finished Legends and Lattes all in one day.
Wow.
I read that book, I think, in one day.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever read a book that you could smell.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a book you smell your way through.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I'm not a coffee drinker. I wanted coffee.
Yeah.
I wanted coffee after reading that.
Yeah. I think those are the best. Those are the best kinds of books, right? When you get all your senses involved, right? When it makes you being able to smell something, and
for me, I think, like, I always say I'm a character-driven reader, but I love atmosphere.
Yes.
I love atmospheric reads.
Yeah.
If I can completely get lost in that world and everything that character is experiencing, that's just perfect for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the top book that you think of when you say that? Or the most recent one?
Well, the first one that comes to mind would be The Wickwire Watch.
Oh, yes.
By Jacqueline Hagan.
Yes.
As soon as I started reading that book, I think I devoured that one in like 2 days as well.
Wow.
And then it's not short. I don't know if you can see it back here. And then I made a YouTube short joking about my reaction, but I did start the second book immediately after and had some emotional support chocolate. Because that's what you do when authors destroy the reader.
Yes. Yes. Oh,
so emotional support chocolate. What's your percentage preference?
Percentage reference on that?
On your chocolate, like, are you a 72%er or?
I do like dark chocolate, but honestly, I buy what's affordable. So yeah. I mean, if I'm going percentage, I do like, I'd say more towards the 60s, something around there. If I'm going darker than that, then I do like it to have some kind of dried fruit or something to balance it out, the bitterness, because otherwise the bitterness is just way too strong for me, which is another reason why I don't drink coffee.
Yeah. Chocolate. I need some chocolate.
Chocolate and caramel are my weaknesses, essentially.
Yeah. Especially dark chocolate with salted caramel.
Oh, yes.
That's my like the Ghirardelli's little squares.
Really good.
That's what goes in my my Christmas stocking every year. I need a whole bag just for me.
And I might be a weird one with this, but I don't know if you guys have the Terry's chocolate orange.
Yes.
Where you are? They're amazing. Yes. That goes in my stocking.
Yep. The lime one's okay. It's not bad.
Okay.
A little variety. I love flavored chocolate. So with bits of orange or if you ever get one with ginger in it, that's really good too.
Yep. I do like the ones that are, I think it's Brookside. You can get like the chocolate covered blueberries and the chocolate covered strawberries. Those are good too. Those ones are a little bit more expensive because well, I mean, they shouldn't be. You shouldn't be eating them as quickly as I do, but that makes them expensive.
Yes, that's true.
But it's fruit. It's healthy. And chocolate's good for you. Chocolate's good for you.
There you go. That's right. You heard it here, folks. Go get some chocolate.
That's right.
So before we go, what are you reading right now?
I'm reading a couple things at the moment. I recently finished, I'm not going to get the authors' names right, but Gog Magog by Jeff Noon, and there's one other author. It's co-authored. I had a blast with that one, actually. That was a really unique world, and you end up following a character I was not expecting to follow, which was a grumpy old retired sailor, a woman, and she's like pretty unhygienic, let's just say that. So that was interesting. And then I'd say in the first 80 pages or so of the first binding by R.R. Verdi.
Okay.
And I'm dipping my toes into A.R. Witham's upcoming book, which is an arc. And the name is escaping me, but it is Rooker Flynn, which I've been so excited for because I want to know more about this character. Let me find it here. The Crimes of Rooker Flynn, which is a pirate.
Okay. Nice. And this is a sequel to Blackjack?
No, actually. So they are related. They are in the same world. It follows a character from Blackjack, but it's a character's past before he meets Jack in this. And it's going to be a trilogy as far as I know. So I'm really excited.
Awesome. Okay. Oh, so many good books.
Yes.
There are.
There's so little time. That's why I love following reviewers like Kay, because she reads all the books. She can tell me which ones to spend my time on.
That's right.
It's so funny though, because I know people say like, "Oh, you read so much," and then I think I'm like, no, I don't read as much as so many other booktubers out there and reviewers. Like if you look at Esme or you look at Andrew Wizard, I
he's crazy. Yeah.
they're both in the same field. Like they
Right.
can read 200 books easily in a year and call it a day. And I'm lucky if I get a book a week.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think YouTube and content creation kind of distorts it a little bit.
Yes.
That being said, when I originally started getting into reading a lot more, as a young in like my 20s, I maybe read 4 books a year. So I get it. The comparison is always going to be skewed depending on where you're at with your reading. But
yeah.
I can't read 200 books a year. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think especially as a parent, the amount of books that you get through is incredible to me.
Yeah, thank you.
It's inspiring.
Yeah, audiobooks, honestly.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And that's the benefit of immersion reading. If I have to go and do chores, I can keep the audiobook going and then just come back to my book when I've got a minute. But yeah, it's I don't know how I balance it. I'm pretty sure I'm going insane as we speak.
It's okay. We're all going mad at the same time. So none of us are going to notice.
Brilliant. We'll have a tea party.
Always
I'll invite the hair.
Exactly. All right. So as we're signing off, Kay, where do we find you and all your lovely stuff?
Yeah, so I'm at Kay's Hidden Shelf. You can find me on pretty well any platform using that handle. YouTube, most recently TikTok, which has been confusing. Instagram, Twitter, all of the platforms. You can find me at Kay's Hidden Shelf.
Excellent.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Kay. This is
Thank
wonderful.
you. Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
Absolutely good. Excellent. So who do we have next week?
I don't know who we have next week.
We have Ari Sanders, I believe.
Is that right?
Yes.
Ooh.
I have to.
He's fun to chat with.
Yes. He is right. He's the Welsh.
He's in Wales. Yes.
Yeah, he's in Wales.
Yes.
So he will also be pre-recorded. We're going to be catching him at a.
It's summertime.
Yeah, it's summertime, and well, he's in Wales, so he's like 8 hours
right.
ahead of us.
Yeah, if we actually had him on at 9 o'clock our time, it would be like I figured it would be 4 a.m. his time.
Yes, so that was a little early for him.
Yeah.
Still, so be sure to join us though every Monday night at 9 o'clock Mountain Time. Was that 11 o'clock?
11 o'clock Eastern.
11 o'clock Eastern. So. Again, if you have any questions for Kay, be sure to leave them in the comments below or go follow her and bug her with all your questions.
I'll come back and check the comments, definitely.
Excellent. All right. Thank you everybody for joining us and for watching us and we'll see you next week.
Have a great night.
Take care of yourselves.